At some point or another during a wipe, you're going to have enough resources that you don't know what to do with them. This isn't something that'll happen every single wipe, but having this knowledge in your repertoire will make you a better player in the long run. If it does happen to be one of those wipes for you where you've got your main base built and an overflow of resources, then building a public flank base might be something to better improve your roams. Intelligent groups will utilize these on routes that they travel frequently between their main base and a destination as respawn points and drop-off locations, and are even more useful on routes that you have to take with large open areas where you would otherwise have no form of protection. Something that I've used these bases for the most, and one of my favorite use cases, is to get up a large cliff that I would otherwise have to run all the way around and up a mountain to get to my base. Why not just place ladders down or build up with twig? Well, because they're going to decay eventually, and a lot of the times I'll get caught in this area where it would be more beneficial to have a place to just drop off loot because a fight broke out outside, or I need to go back to a base that I just raided to get loot as quickly as possible, for example. Something like this will turn a 15-minute run to your base into a few seconds with a place to respawn, drop off loot, and also offering protection. Solo players in small groups might be thinking to themselves, this is useless and doesn't serve a purpose to me, but imagine all the times you've raided a 2x1 and just let it decay. All it takes is a few trees, a couple foundations, and some windows to turn a 2x1 into an awesome flank base. In a small base like this, you only need a couple stacks of resources to have it running for a whole wipe. So the next time you molly raid that solo player with wooden doors, throw a couple bags down in there and turn it into a nice flank base like this. You also might be thinking, what does he mean by public flank base? Most players in Rust will do absolutely everything in their power to never PvP for some reason and protect all their loot at all costs, which is fine and all for your main base. Obviously, if you're trying to play a Rust wipe for more than one day, you need to do that. But for something like this is your extra resources, your extra items, things that you've gotten from raids, or maybe a base that you turned into this that you raided. So leave things in there like workbenches, repair benches, furnaces, a barbecue, things that other players can use, and only lock the door on where the TC is and throw a couple boxes in there, maybe lock up another room with your bags in it. And eventually, if this is built in the right location, it'll attract players that will come here and fights will break out. You'll have a respawn point with kits in there to get into the action, and it's just overall a great way to entice fights and also have a place to help other players progress. Because one of the biggest problems with servers dying throughout a wipe is that a couple groups dominate and destroy everybody and never give them a chance to catch up. So by building things like these around the map near your base, you can create controlled PvP environments where you can give yourself some more fun and also help other players out to get a start. And if you're keeping loot in here, you might want to make it more than one door to it. But most of the time, I keep nothing in these bases, and I only depot in there for a moment before bringing it back to my main base. Usually, it'll just be enough resources to keep it up for the entire wipe in the TC. Unless you have something valuable in here like electrical components or a tier 2 or tier 3 workbench, this will probably never get raided, especially if you make it look decayed or if it's obviously built for the public to use. People most of the time are not going to raid this because they know what it is and what it's meant for. The only real concern you should have is if you made enemies, obviously, or there's a fresh player that's trying to eco raid this to turn it into their main base, so just make it not eco raidable and you should be good. And if you're trying to do something like this, building up a complex cliff, you can utilize the multi-TC technique and build these bases closer towards each other where you would otherwise not be able to connect them up. So in this example, I've got a TC on the left side and I've got a TC on the twig on the right, and then I'm building from the right side to the left. It requires a bit of free-handing to get it close enough to where it doesn't have a big gap that you can enter through, but once you've personally done this a few times, it gets pretty easy to figure it out. If you line up the square that the TC is on right here, for example, I fiddle around with the triangles to try to get it as close as possible to the right side. And I simply just put a floor frame down, the ones that you put ladder hatches in, and I was able to build a regular floor out, which is how I got that extra square off of the right side. So in summary, when you're having a successful wipe and have an overflow of resources, you can build something like this which serves a myriad of purposes. Extra respawn locations on a route that you travel frequently. You could build one of these in between your base in an area with a ton of bases that you plan on raiding so that you have a place to depot loot and get back to the raid to depot more loot as quickly as possible. You could turn a raided base into something like this, and whatever else that your own creativity brings you. That's all I got for you guys today. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, leave a dislike if you didn't, and I'll catch you in the next one.